We are live on Facebook and YouTube with Jodi Moon. Jodi, my dear friend, how do we originally meet? You started coming on when I did all those live streams during the coronavirus, but how did we meet? What was the way?
Some other guru meditator through Fedbook, and I was like, "Who's this cat?" And then I checked you. I stalked you for a good couple weeks to make sure, and like I usually do with people, and I liked your vibe, so I'm like, "Oh yeah," and I knew you could help teach me stuff.
Yeah, well, I have to say that I've really appreciated all of the interactions, all of the comments, all of the support, and everything that's happened over the years. You are a firecracker. There's no fucking question there. And then finding out, of course, almost immediately that you're an Aries, I was like, oh, I love the Aries archetype. So I'm very, very honored to have you on this live stream because, as you said, you don't do videos either. So this is me catching a really cool moment here with my friend Jodi. So thank you so much for anybody who's already watching. I see there are people on already. Um, and when you do come in, if you want to drop a hello in the comments, that would be super helpful just to let us know who we're working with. And big encouragement on comments and questions and conversation as we go through this. There is a content warning on here, a trigger warning, sorry. And that's because Jodi, well, I know you've experienced quite a bit of trauma, and I know you help people with trauma, and this can be a bit of a dicey subject. So if you are feeling like talking about trauma or something is going to come up, um, please feel free to, for your own mental health, to get off the stream now. But we are going to chit chat about all these things, and of course, I have quite intense experiences of trauma myself, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting into it. My friend Ruth comes in to say, "Hey, Josh, from a cold Nova Scotia." Gotta say, I'm pretty happy to not be in a cold Nova Scotia just right now. How is the weather in Wisconsin? It must be quite cold there too. That's right on the border of Canada, correct?
Oh yeah, I mean it's been today. It's okay, but it's been chilly, which
Yeah.
I'm eating in solitude right now. So I love it. It's an excuse not to have to you know stay out in the elements for too long, but I make myself.
You get to what do you call it? Hibernate. You lucky girl.
Which I do, and you know,
Yeah, yeah, you seem like you're a combination of maybe a person who stays to themselves and also a person who is very vocal and very communicative. So I think that that must be an interesting polarity inside of yourself to work with, eh?
yeah, I am. I'm vocal online, but I keep to myself, and I prefer to be alone a lot unless I'm with when I'm with a like energy like mine, and they know that I'm going to meditate, or if they get too talkative, I'm just going to put my headphones in. Like if we have that same vibe energy, but otherwise, I'm like, get me the fuck out of here because I just
Well,
feel too much.
it's cool that you say that because what me and Lily call it is cohabitation, and it's where you're in the same room with people, but you don't have to entertain each other. Because like we live in this weird world, like where if you go to someone's house, like the expectation is, oh, here's some water, and oh, here's some food, and would you like this, and would you like that? I love it when people say, make yourself at home, and I do. I literally will go and get a drink of water and go take a shit and whatever, whatever these people do, and yeah, that type of community where people feel free within themselves while also in community or in connection with people, I feel like is the key here. I when I'm in places where everyone's doing all things together. We're like, oh, we're going here now. Oh, we're going there now. Oh, we're going here now. That independent spirit of mine starts to flare up a bit. So, yeah.
Stuff. I mean, I can go with a partner, like if it was like, a boyfriend or whatever. But I want to leave when I want to leave. I'm just I raised myself, so I've been doing it by myself for so long. So people talking and all, it's too much. I feel too much. So I'm like, just shut. I mean, I've told the bees like, shut the fuck up, and I'm like, what am I doing? Telling Mother Nature to shut the fuck up. Come on. But yeah, I can be like at parties and stuff though. I always end up working because it's just who I am. So it's always someone crying in the corner drunk and I'm all consoling them. And, I just want to get home and do my psychedelics and do my own thing, honestly.
Yeah. Well, tell me a bit about, you said you raised yourself. Tell me a bit about your past.
Yeah, so my mom, that's where the abandonment issues start to come into play. She left when I was 11. Um, and I raised myself because I guess my dad was working 3 jobs. My mom was a bigger alcoholic and did a lot
Okay.
of, which, I feel for, I'm not throwing her under the bus because we all got issues and had our own traumas and she had hers. But he was busy working and I mean they were fighting 5 days a week,
Yeah.
So I had to had to learn how to very to self get away from all.
Yeah, so you develop defense mechanisms and coping mechanisms and strategies in order to keep safe, hey? Yeah. And do you find when you're doing work with trauma that obviously you can empathize then, obviously, because that would be childhood trauma that you're describing. Yeah. Well, tell me a bit about your work that you do with others.
So it's always it's the deep dive. It's people with a lot of anxiety, suicidal people is the main go to. So it's
You mentioned that before. Yeah, I'd love for you to go to a deep dive. You work with people who are suicidal quite often. And again, trigger warning, content warning, please. If this is something that's going to trigger you or hurt your body or hurt your mind, please love yourself and do what you got to do. Tell me about your trauma work, darling.
so it's, yeah, it's just people, it's, family members hire me if they want me to talk to someone who is suicidal or to know the signs of, just because I've done it for so long. Like I what do you call it? I interned myself for years and did it for free for, get a base on how good I was at it and all that good stuff. And then once I started the visions and like being able to tell people like he's got pills in his hand or the guns to his head or like we're done talking. You don't need to talk to me. You need to call 911. Like I don't know. They didn't trust for like some people didn't, and I'm like, is he sitting in like a '70s room? I can see like a poster on the wall, So it's all those coming into tune with what you think and trusting what you know versus always being what because family members they don't want to hear all that shit either. So it's just a fine line of trying to balance
Like
all.
how much to get involved and how much to give space and all that sort of stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting. So, when did psychic senses develop for you? And I'd love to hear about psychedelics too, but tell me about psychic experiences and how that developed.
So I've always had them, but you brush them under the table, and then like while I was raising my children who are now grown out, I have 20-year-old twins, some stepkids, and then a 26-year-old daughter. I forget their ages, but I didn't drink or do any drugs or practice a lot of witchcraft while I mean, little things, but while I was raising them because I was busy being a mom. Like I wasn't on social media. I mean, it was different, 20 some years ago too, but I just didn't have time for all that. But what was the original question?
How did you get into psychic experiences? Like, how did that develop in you? So you're saying that that was more after the kids had gone out of home and you were developing these things?
Before and after, like, I mean, you're so busy as a parent, sometimes you can't really tap into that. So after they moved out, I guess, and healing from I had chronic Lyme's disease for 20 plus years,
Uh-huh. Shit.
to be in a wheelchair.
Yeah. Yeah.
During that experience and just being really sick and just at home all time researching and just deep diving into who I am and my triggers and stuff, all that stuff just started coming more and it just heightened and heightened and heightened and here today. It just keeps
Mm-hmm.
like it's too much a lot of the times actually. That's why I disappear offline or I disappear out of people's lives because I'm trying to heal what anxieties are coming through from other people and I feel it all too much.
And so that psychic is also empathetic connection, is what I hear you saying too. Like you can feel empathetically towards others.
Too much. Yeah, I'll end up. I mean, I get their anxiety because at this point, I don't feel like I have a whole lot of it of my own. So if I get like, a call about someone's anxiety killing me, I mean, I've been knocked to the ground before. Then I know it's a suicidal call, or I assume it is. I'm, I'm right a lot. which
So you
is
can feel the intensity of the energy in your body before you actually get to chat with people. Yeah, I understand that. I also am sensitive. I also experience psychic things, and I have to say, I don't. Unfortunately, I don't always pick up on those really intense things because I do feel a bit guarded in my heart when it comes to things. But you're actually reminding me that that's a very valuable skill. Yeah, and we actually had three friends. You would know this story, I think, but we had three friends commit suicide a couple of years ago, all in within 1 month. Really hard. And it actually, what it did was it kickstarted in me, and this has been the case since. If I do see that somebody's on that line, I very much reach out, and that's something that, again, I wish I could say I did that always, but it was a wake up call when a few friends died all at once. And the energies are so intense right now, and unresolved trauma and collective pain and everything is just so fucking intense. And even just 2 days ago, both me and Lily just felt like, oh my God, it's almost like we have stomach aches. But you check in, you're like, oh, we don't though. We're like, oh, it's like, yeah, but I've got this tension in my heart. But it's like, but when I really check in, I don't though. It's like, well, what the fuck is that feeling in the air? And then, of course, I go and scroll on Facebook, and it's like, well, that's what everyone's experiencing right now, or at least a large portion of people. Yeah, these intense bursts of energy that come into the world and inflame even trauma and mental illness. Like there's I would hope that the reason is to try and help push people through that cleansing, or to help get us into a space where we're actually healing a lot of this deep pain that is kicked around in our bodies and in our collective psyche for so long. Um, but I don't really know either. Like, I have certainly all kinds of theories about this being a new wave of consciousness and healing of the past and everything like that. But who really knows? We don't really know. We just keep on going and keep on experiencing as best we can our own health and peace, and help other people, as you just pointed out, as much as we possibly can, and receive help from others when they go to give it to us, and all those things, right? That's the best we can really do.
and to think that we know more than we know is dangerous too. You know what I mean? That like
Big.
reached out to me, said and about you know, feeling anxious about something. What was that? Like a week ago?
Oh yeah, so I had actually some of my own trauma from my own upbringing actually come up. And when it was coming up, it felt like, oh my God, it feels like everyone's attacking me, but no one was. Like, if you really actually looked at the situation, it was actually just very peaceful, beautiful moments. But I felt like there was pain in my body that was coming towards me, and I could feel this. It's really hard to describe. I'm actually going to talk about it a lot more coming up, because I feel like I'm actually on the other side of a lot of these things now, but just a lot of shadow perceptions around family being bad. And it's funny because now we're just having the best time right now as a family. And it was after that big cleansing that we were talking about that you picked up on, that suddenly I was like, oh my God, like this is in my head, like not my head, in my body. Like these are pain trauma perceptions in my body around responsibility and around family and all that kind of stuff. But fuck, man, it's been so much nicer since then because I can just see my family so much clearer. And even when there is things that are slightly annoying, or I feel like I'm being taken advantage of by my little one or something like that, it's like, well, you're a little one, who cares? But it was like, it's amazing how intense some of those things got in my psyche. And yeah, you picked up on it around that time, didn't you?
And sometimes it's just me discerning. Like I'm trying to, before I reach out, because I don't like sometimes people don't want to know if there's I don't want to know if something bad's going to happen with in my own world. I don't really want to know. But on the other hand, if I could prevent it, or if someone's like, "Man, I'm picking up something with you. Stay home." I'm going to stay home. I'm not
Mm.
I'm going to listen. You know what I mean? So it's sometimes it's just discerning if I'm feeling something that someone's said to me, or I watch all your videos and stuff, so I know what you're doing with Jupe and stuff. So I know he's a little go getter, and I know your fears around, because your brother's accident and
Well,
stuff.
you could have been picking up on my fears too, right? Like that anxiety. Yeah, yeah. It's been really cool though. As Jupy, I wish I could show you a video. I can see them right now, but it's too far away. I just trust him more. I trust him more and more as the days go on. He's displaying his understanding of caution and is displaying his understanding of his own body and how to operate and that kind of stuff. And so it's been quite a passage because the big thing that I didn't get to experience with my beautiful little brother John Ross was him going through that development into independence and self-sufficiency. And so even though Jupiter's only 2.5, I still feel that um, that that pathway for him. He's such an independent soul, and he's so strong in his mind, and he's so strong in his heart. But he's so loving too. He's got that Canadian genetics where like he'll bump into you and say sorry, or if when I change his diaper, he says thank you, Daddy. It's actually very very sweet. But I know a lot of people that are polite like that, but that also then don't have good boundaries. And Jupiter has great boundaries when he's like, no, fuck that. Like he's got a, but he's an Aries as well, right?
I
Yeah. So I've been really, but it's been very healing for my heart to be with Jupiter through these passages as he moves into his strength and his toddlerness, and even as he shows little peaks of what it will look like after toddler too. It's been really healing for me. The whole thing felt like I couldn't see the future because my perception of what development in a child looks like was so skewed when I because my brother's accident and the trauma that we all experienced as a family. So just being with Jupiter's natural development right now has been like yeah, it's been really really healing for me. And I knew it would happen too, Jodi, before um we're we very much planned to have a baby boy. It was like the whole thing. And immediately I was like, oh, that's going to bring up all of my shit. But it's like, what better environment? I'm with this beautiful family, with these safe people emotionally and spiritually. What would be a better, what could be better than that?
brother when that accident happened.
He was 2 exactly. So it was his second birthday when it happened. And so as we came to Jupiter's 2 mark, before that, I went to therapy just because I was like, oh shit, like I can feel this thing is rising. He would hit his head, and I would see images of my little brother in the hospital with his eyes all bruised and stuff, you know? So it was like the overlap in my perceptual mind between my little brother and his pain from the past and Jupiter and his current pain when it was happening. It was fucked really because again it was bringing up like the deepest pain that I have. Um, but I knew it would happen. Like I said, this is a thing that before Jupiter was born, I was like, if I have a little boy, an active little boy, I'm gonna have to go through all of those things, you know. But one thing is, and again, God bless his heart, I really instilled when Jupiter was really young to be cautious of cars. And now that he's so cautious of cars, it's almost like, oh, sorry, man. I hope I didn't cause a new trauma for you, because like cars will come by and you'll be like, Dad. like, I'm like, you're okay, bud. You're okay.
You're okay when your kids fall. You're like, you're okay, because you're trying to like get them out of that fear stage again that we do to them. I mean, we're traumatizing our kids every day, whether we want to or not. Just
Yeah,
it, our shit.
exactly. But if I'm going to put a trauma into Jupiter, a safety trauma while he's this young is not too bad, you know. And like he had the same thing for water. Now he's swimming like crazy. So I just feel like, yeah, all of the things have just been like, just brother, just please continue to grow, continue to develop, and like yeah, I did. But anyways, beyond all that, I look at my son daily, and I feel like I'm on MDMA.
Right?
Yeah.
Parents,
How are your kids?
they're good. I mean, moved out. One moved home recently, but she's Aquarius and I'm an Aries, so we were, you know, you
She's
can't
Aquarius, you said?
put a Sagittarius.
Sagittarius. Okay, yeah, yeah, that's 2 fires. Yeah.
She's a spit.
Yeah.
We live together, and now she's with her dad, which is great because she's never lived with him before. So
Okay.
they're like, "Oh, it's gonna be all roses." I'm like, just get
And so you're quite open about your use of psychedelics. Mushroom seems to be one of the main players in your experiences. So what drew you to mushrooms in particular, and how has that worked with your perceptions and experience of trauma as well? I would love to know about your full journey with psychedelics. You said that when you were a mama, you weren't doing that kind of stuff because you were just focused on raising the cubs.
No, but I
Um,
started um
my friend Shanti Shelley just comes and say I strongly relate to this. So I think we were talking about trauma and stuff, and I can actually see you two being very close friends. I don't know if you two know each other yet, but you should.
so yeah, with the psychedelics, I was a wild one when I moved around a lot. Now I live in my hometown, Wisconsin again, but I got the fuck out of here when I was ripe at 19. Like I graduated or late. Could have been early, but I stayed just to be a kid longer anyway. Um so then I took off cuz I hated my home life. I didn't like any of it. I wanted to get the fuck away from everyone. So I did a hell of a lot of drugs. All the way up till 26, and then I got clean off everything, and then I got pregnant. But I've done I mean I was a huge raver. So the mushrooms, the liquid acid, the ketamine, I did it all. No regrets. And then I stopped everything and raised my kids. Then fast forward to my kids aged up to about my twins were 17, 16, 17.
Are you your youngest?
Yes, my twins are my youngest. So and this is when I was healing from Lyme's disease. So I was doing everything black market. I just sat home and studied. I mean, I was like 78 pounds, walking skeleton. Got fired from my corporate job because they knew I was going to buy this house, and they were like, so they were doing me a favor. It was, I was with the company for years and years prior in daycare with them, and so I think they were trying to just like do me the favor by letting me go, which ended up being the favor because then I could just reel into healing. And I did all the black market stuff, healed from Lyme's disease, but I still had a lot of leftover pain. Um, so someone mentioned magic mushrooms, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna try them again. And I wasn't even in the mood to want to trip or anything. I mean, I just it was healing purposes,
Hmm.
and I did a little bit. I liked it again. And again, my kids were older, but I noticed the pain in my body started to go away. So I'm like, gosh, so I just really started deep diving into researching, all I could about healing through psychedelics. And then I just started going mad. I'm talking like ounces a week. I was going through, I mean, ounces a week. And my kids loved it. They were like, just do more shrooms. You're being a fucking bitch. I was great. I was finally feeling pain. Like, I mean, that's another reason I do the suicidal stuff because I don't think people know just how close. I mean, I begged for it. Like, just fucking take me. I've had it. Like at the, I was there so many times. So a gift and then give it away, almost. But yeah, I mean, it all leads back to just psychedelics because it helped me heal and it helped me see.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And again, the difference between shrooms for a party and shrooms for healing are definitely two different intentions as well. And many would argue the latter is what their intended use is. So I'm really cool to hear that you went through that experience. Have you tried MDMA before?
One of my favorites.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yeah, it's my favorite as well. Yeah, I mean, actually, my story with MDMA was think I was like 19, maybe. Yeah, 19 when I'd first. Well, actually, no, it was ecstasy. And word of warning to the kids out there, ecstasy was pressed with all kinds of dirty stuff, and it actually really, I'd say, harmed my body at different points to the point where I had to quit everything for like 5 years. And then MDMA, which is one of the active ingredient in ecstasy, was taken out of the pressed pills that were cut with dirty drugs and made into their pure form. And yeah, it became a new relationship, let's just say. And I know a lot of people that went through similar changes like that. But when I first started playing with MDMA, um, ecstasy at the time, it was the first time I allowed myself to sing and dance. Those were two things that, like, I grew up in a conservative space where the idea of singing and dancing is a bit embarrassing. If you're not a professional dancer or a professional singer, then you're not meant to do it, kind of thing. And of course, that's not the way that any of our tribes run now. But at the time, I don't know, what was it like when you were growing up? Was that not for you, even maybe for you, but like, is that cultural thing around dancing and singing and stuff? Did you feel that reservedness, or did you see that reservedness in others?
I probably saw it in others, but I was never that child.
Hmm.
I was raised a lot up north, deep, deep Native American country. Well, because my dad was a hunter, and they were busy, so the natives took me under their wing. So that's why I probably relate so closely with that. But you know, a lot of that theory is, you sing, you dance, you get through it. So I've always been just kind of the crazy. I dance by myself downtown in stores. I don't get.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, for me, my brother is a like one of the most talented musicians I've ever met in my life. I don't know if you've ever seen a video of him, but my brother plays piano and picked it up when he was like 4 by himself. Like he just literally sat there and would hear songs and then figure them out on the piano, right up into classical music at the age of 4 or 5. And so, interestingly enough, one of the reasons that I couldn't sing or dance, sing in particular in this scenario, was that I felt insecure that my brother was the musical one and I wasn't the musical one. And it was interesting. Of course, that's a duality. I teach how to overcome that shit now. I've spent a lot of my life learning what dualistic polarizations like that look like and how they create shadows. Because if I think my brother's the musician, I'm not. That's saying basically like I'm cutting myself off that and giving all of that over to him. uh, he deserves it. He's an amazing musician, but I deserve it too. And so going through those processes and realizing the freedom of my own spirit, the freedom of music and the freedom of art as it came through me in that form, it was really, really, really healing for me, like really healing. And MDMA was very much one of the kickovers in order to initiate that or to release that block that I had created for myself, and into being able to sing in a band at the time. But yeah, MDMA can be very, very powerful and very, very helpful. The other day, this was about a week ago, I got to do a microdose of LSD, and that was really nice, like really nice. Sometimes LSD and mushrooms send me into a dissociative state quite quickly. And for whatever reason, this time it did not. So we were singing and dancing and pounding on our own chest and stuff. It was really, really fun. It was a beautiful thing to do.
Brother with the sorry, I'm so curious. You only have one brother, right?
I have two brothers.
Oh, so it's not the disabled one. That's the.
Sorry, yeah, sorry. So my complicated family history. My littlest brother, who's 7 years younger than me, he was the one who was hit by a car. I was 9 and he was 2, and I have one brother called Benjamin who is 3 years younger than I am, and I'm very, very close with Ben. He's my main G. But yeah, sorry for the thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, because a lot of times, I worked in childcare forever too, and a lot of times what quote unquote hand kids or the autistic kids, which I just really relate with, they've tapped musical side or their psychic sides and all that. So they're fascinating people, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, very much so. I always said that John Ross, my brother's spirit was too big for his body, and so that was his way to ground it in, essentially. Um, there's theories. I don't know how to talk about this too thoroughly, but there is theories um, around disability, and for a person who is autistic, for example, oftentimes they're just even more real, even more straight to the point, less convoluted. So it could be that, in a weird way, that's a part of the evolution of our psyche and our humanity. Because again, there's very few filters and things are more creative and often more interesting, as you said. So that makes sense. Yeah. Um, Go ahead.
I've never also did that stuff, but I probably, slightly autistic myself or whatever you would call it. I don't know. Cause I will just say, I don't have a filter and I don't know how to have one, nor do I care to. But all the people that I know that, are have Asperger's or whatever, autistic, they are tuned in differently, and a lot, I just relate with them a lot
That's
because
beautiful. Beautiful. I personally love you as a firecracker who says what you're feeling and says what's on your mind. And um, I've had experiences, at first you were like, as you said, you were stalking me, quote unquote, and all that stuff. I've had experiences that were a little bit off-putting with people who had said those types of words before. And so when we first met, I remember saying to Lily, I was like, sometimes like I'm a little bit like, well, how should I take this? And then I was like, you know what? I really trust this person. I'm not sure why, but I really have a lot of trust in this person. And I feel like their intention is of benevolence. And you're obviously you're chiming in because you want to add to the conversation. You want to express your feelings, right? I very, very much appreciate it. Like very much appreciate it.
because I'm trying to feel for I don't I'm very weird about the energies that I have surrounding me on all outlets. The friends, I have this real small group that I hang around the same people I've hung around since age 13. But online, I don't want to follow the people that are just going to talk about, trauma, or just talk about the government, or just so I'll look at your page to see if I'm going to learn something off you, if I'm going to gain something off you. If it doesn't evolve me, it doesn't involve me. I'm very much.
I love that. Is that have you heard that before?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a little, I almost put it on my Facebook like a million times, but then I
Did you
don't.
make that up?
No, no, somebody else did.
Okay, because I was like, I've never actually heard that one before. That's a cool line. I love that.
I don't.
Well, as you know, I'm sure you can see it. My goal is to be multidimensional,
Yeah.
meaning that I'm not just one thing. And although I do have many passions and interests, and well, the truth is though, that's where I'm at now. But the journey to lead towards that was actually getting strongly political at points and strongly so spiritually focused that it was like people would say, I don't know, anything that wasn't spirituality. And I'd be like, that's all stupid. Like we're focused on spirituality. And what happened was I hurt myself, by being so hyper focused on one thing at a time, whether it's politics or spirituality. I started to harm myself. I realized that I was putting myself into holes that were hard to get out of perceptually as well. And I realized that I wasn't even really connecting with people in the fullness because I was so hyper fixated on one or two different philosophies or one or two different intentions or my own agendas subconsciously or whatever. And a big part of moving into making jokes and fucking around and playing more and one wanting to show perspectives that weren't just spiritual but that are actually multidimensional. Again, there's nothing wrong with science, for example. There's nothing wrong with religion. Like there's place for all of it. And so my journey has been to take myself out of my own identification roles in order to then be multidimensional and be able to speak to people on many levels.
Yeah, I do. I think both in that regard. Like my friends have accused me about being in my own space too much or on Jody time. Well, it's my fucking life, so you're goddamn right. I'm gonna be, but like I'll just think of things and like post a bunch, just and I'm really in my own world, and then I jump on. Like I only seek out a couple people's pages, and yours is one of them because it'll you know heal me in from being too caught up in my own, like my own life, and remembering that we are a part of the whole. A is like, I mean, I only care about three opinions. I say this a lot, and they call me mom, so that's true. But one of my only like earthly goals here, like earthly goals are cool, but I'm trying to get to moksha. You know what I mean? So I'm just a really ex- know that I'm weird, so embrace it, but then also, try to get in with you guys and, learn, presencing meditation. Like I was shit at that until you taught it several times.
How are you going with it? Like,
Good.
no, I'm not trying to say sit down for a certain period of time each day, but like if you tune into your hands, for example, is that a accessible point for you? Yeah, cool. Yeah, we're doing. I'm going to be launching this transformational communication course. And so the idea behind the whole thing, it's quite a large thing here. I don't want to whew, give me a second. We've been working on a structure. It's a 3-month structure. And at first, I really wanted to get into the communication techniques first. And Lily like pulled me back and she was like, darling, these don't even work unless people are in presence. Like it doesn't actually work. Like all of these techniques are based upon a person being inside their body and knowing their emotions and knowing their physical bodies and emotional bodies and spiritual bodies and then communicating that. So she was like, sweetie, you have to, for those first 3 weeks, it has to be about presencing and shadow work. And I was like,
She's so right.
yeah, yeah. So, but it was funny because I really did want to jump ahead just because I've got these really fun techniques, like all these really cool communication techniques um and abilities that I feel so excited about. But she was just like, Josh, you just can't. Like you like the first fundamental is knowing thyself. The second is communicating it. I was like, okay, you got it, girl, you got it, girl. So I'm really happy that I have my beautiful wife to keep me on track as well because my biggest problem when it comes to teaching and when it comes to sharing is assuming that people already know what the thing is and then really wanting to work from there. But I've been reminded over and over again in my life, you got to go back to basics. And that's for myself too, not just for others. Like keep going back to basics. Go back, go back, go back, go back, go back, go back, go back. Because that's where the juice is, as Lily was saying the other day, and that's where we actually that's the point of transformational communication is to
Yeah,
be so.
things, but
Go
if
ahead.
we're basics of, our workout or meditation, any of that stuff, we're screwed. You know what I mean? So I mean, she was totally right by,
Mm.
because not everyone follows all this stuff like you and I do. Or
That's the reminder that I need to be given over and over again. And I've never once experienced a presencing meditation and thought, that wasn't the right time. It's like it's always the right time, right? Because we're in the actual present moment of what's happening. Last night, I had the pleasure to, with my friend Roger Lee. Sorry, I haven't eaten today, and I was up very late, buzzing in my own presence actually because earlier that day yesterday I was at a meditation for metta, like the loving kindness meditation in the heart, and it just blew me wide open, to be honest. Like I can feel like all these pulses and presences through my body and stuff. It's actually really really cool. What the fuck was the point of that? I don't know. Again, I'm actually a little bit woozly here right now, but that's okay.
I liked, I was like, God, I'm gonna space off and just because I daydream a lot, and I was like, shit, I'm gonna just be like, and I've been going through all these tests lately. I've had a lot of medical procedures recently and just really deep diving into pranayama and stuff out of necessity because the painful, biopsies and stuff. And I'm fine. They're like, where were you? She's like, we can't do this today because I'm like, but I carved out double time. And she's like, yeah, but it's just too painful. I'm like, man, I'm here. Let's go. Let's do it. And she's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah. And I was fucking, I don't even know where I was. I wasn't on that table. Gone. I said,
Good
for
on you. That's a great example of how meditation can be useful in a very practical sense as well, right? You have to endure something that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of pain in the body, and being able to get into those right states of mind for it. And as you said, it sounds like you left your body. There's ways to travel as well out of that kind of stuff. So yeah, very, very cool. Darling, I'm going to give a 5-minute heads up so that I can go eat some breakfast and become a normal person again. I would love to. Is there anything that you'd like to share about your journey? And do you want people to add you on Facebook if they see this, or what's your boundaries when it comes to that kind of stuff?
I mean, my face is public. My page is public.
It is now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all open to that. I'm just, yeah, for sure.
Well, well, if anybody wants to be energetically involved with a spiritual firecracker, and I can tell you, a person who you do support people in a really real way. Like, I don't feel like your support is fluff. Like, you're honest about what you're actually receiving, what you're actually experiencing, and your perceptions on stuff. And I just, yeah, I find it very, very helpful when um, there was talk about open relationship stuff, but you were just like, hey, that's cool, but also fuck that for me. And I really appreciate that honesty, you know, like that's the authenticity that we're looking for in the world. So anybody in this world that wants to interact with a cool fire spirit, trauma counselor, psychedelic adventurer, Jodi's the one. I really think specifically Shanti Shelley here. I'm not sure if you guys are connected, but you two would, I think, will get along very, very well. I feel like you must be soulmates even.
There's some girl.
Yeah. Yeah, so but tell me anything to wrap this up, darling. What do you want to see in the world? Where's your next, maybe not earthly goal, but spiritual goal when it comes to all of this?
You know, I run under the philosophy, I don't know why I think this way, but I think the more that I learn here, the more lessons I go through and grasp and conquer, the less I'll have to deal with the next go round. I'm trying to like not come back. So I mean, realistically, it's probably not a realistic goal, but no one knows. But yeah, I don't really know. I'm just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. I'm gonna go with
Perfect. Yeah. It's cool that you say that though. You know, I would say that for I would say 10 years. I was specifically cleansing karma so that I would have the option to stay or go when I came back around. So I spent a lot of time doing that and a lot of time rooting out like my karma, just to make it very, very clear, from past lives and stuff. Like when I went in to start to do spiritual journeying and I found past lives. When I was like 21, so I was like past lives, like, ooh, I bet you I was like a monk, and I was like, oh, cool, I was. And then the next vision I had was as a leader of the Knights of the Templar, doing terrible things. So I feel like my karma in this lifetime will very much, my karma has been to clean myself up and to clean up my own intentions and to make sure I'm not leaving energetic mess when I'm interacting with people, to make sure that the starts, middles, and ends are clean, energetically has been a really big thing. And it's to the point where I didn't even really feel like, yeah, for a long time, I didn't even interact with people because I was just trying to cleanse, or I was cleansing, moving through these transformations. So it sounds like exactly what you're doing right now.
yeah.
Yeah. And why not? And why not? Even if we still reincarnate, why not do the work? You know, like it's a incredible task that we're being placed in to come into a karmically heavy, society, and to have our own traumas and our own karmic pasts and our own karmic futures, and to do that work that enables those futures. That's big work. It's a big opportunity as well. Without the internet, it would have been a little bit more difficult too. It would have been easier to get. I was going to say to get distracted, even though the internet's the most distracting thing on fucking planet. But it would be easier to get distracted though, literally, because the material world would find its way to push over. But because we have all of these connections and we have these abilities to communicate with each other as we all go through our own healing and go through our own spiritual path and do that karmic healing, all that sort of stuff, I do feel like we can also cheerlead for each other. That's one of the best parts about this time.
Yeah, that's love my online friends is that I can get, your guys' flavor or healing or just I don't know people that I trust their opinions because my circle's so small that when I have an issue, a jealousy issue or whatever, I don't talk to anybody. It's myself. So I'll just sit here and go through all the stages, the grief and the book. Like I'm literally checking it off the list, and then I come back out like a firecracker. You know what I mean? But I don't know if I could do that with, I
In
don't.
person, yeah, in person all the time. You're right. It's not quite the same. There is a barrier as well as a connectivity that I feel the internet provides. It's like a boundary as well as because the truth is, I was saying, the friend was saying this to me yesterday. It's like the neat part about the internet is you're probably going to end up exposed to opinions you don't agree with, like a lot. But that's okay because then at least we're all being real. Everyone can see, but we can see things at a distance. Whereas before, in order to get any information off anyone, you have to be right in their face, right? And it's like now you can just be like, okay, well, there's 15 different perspectives I had never taken into consideration. And also, I gotta say this, social movements happen so fucking fast now. It's crazy, for better, in terms of, let's say, Me Too movement and anti-racism, homophobia, or for worse, as in I'm not like a Trump hater or lover or anything like that. But fuck, man, things got real hairy there in the United States for a bit, and it happened fast though. Like we're talking like 1 month later, boom, the entire narrative is completely changed, and the division and pain between the different narratives were highlighted. Like I was just like, holy fucking shit, that was like one of the fastest things I've ever seen. But for better or for worse, things move very, very quickly right now, and the internet absolutely aids that process.
Line and see everyone. I mean, especially right now, it's getting really heated again. I mean, I thrive in chaos, and I can't stand any government, any voting. Just take me out of all of it. So I just sit and laugh at people. I mean, they're wasting their whole day on this politics shit. And oh, seriously, go watch a football game and scream at that like it's such a waste of your precious energy. I'm not going to do it. I ain't
Yeah,
doing.
well, don't do it, Jody. You don't have to. This is
Well, some days I do.
what this has to be Luna because they're out there right now, and Luna must have taken Lily's phone and written "I love you, Dad" in the comment. I was just so surprised to see that. Yeah. Anyways, look, I'm gonna wrap this up. Absolutely love you. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Thank you so much for the support over the years as well, and just the fucking hilarity. Like I've definitely broken out laughing at some of the jokes that you've cracked over the years are just like just so honest that it's almost perceptually bending. I really really appreciate you in that role. And Luna just wrote, "Yeah, I did. Sorry. I love you too, Luna, my beautiful daughter."
Oh, and you
um,
too. I mean, seriously, you're one of the connections that I would hate to lose someday when I, if I ever get off grid or whatever, I would just be like, "Ugh, they're pushing them
well,
though."
give good warning if you're going to do that. We'll find a way to stay connected. There's always a way.
Yeah, there's always a way. It's years out yet, unless I just drop off. You'll know.
I love you so much, Jody. And I hope you have a fantastic. Thank you so much for taking your time to do this as well today. I really appreciate that. Stick around for a second.
Okay.